This happened around 2002 in Germany. I was about 11 years old, and this was my very first experience. My sister, who was 12 years old, decided to try a Ouija session with little self-made cards on which the letters were drawn, a table, and a glass. She and two classmates were in the living room of our little apartment. My mother had a Ouija experience when she was young and was fine with my curious sister's idea, and she took me and my little brother to the kitchen to not disturb her. We waited for some minutes in there. I stared lazily at the door to the corridor. The door was mostly glass and I could see everything that was going on behind it. Then, I saw a person walk past the kitchen. He could only have come from the living room and seemingly was headed for the exit. I was puzzled. First, the man was pitch black and as tall as an ordinary grown-up. Second, there was no audible sound of the living room door nor footsteps. He could not have been there. Well, I brushed it off. I believe my mind was playing tricks on me. Then, my little brother, who sat across from me, asked, "Did you see that shadow too?" I was astonished, and we shared impressions. Shortly after that, my sister and her friends came into the kitchen and stated that the session just ended because the spirit left. This was the start of a paranormal activity around us. Even as we moved on to another house, it went on. Because of my sister's innocent curiosity in the Ouija board, our home became haunted. It started in most cases when it got dark and our parents went to sleep. So they never witnessed anything and thought we were kinda nuts. It was hard. Lights switched on when my sister and I headed for the dark room. There were many things, from shadows to lights going on and off, to knocks on doors, to doors that flew open and footsteps and even cold spots. There was also an extremely nasty smell in one of the bathrooms. It came without warning and quickly left. It was clear that this was no normal smell that you could imagine existing in the bathroom. It was like something foul had lain in the tub for a long time. Once something pushed on my mattress from beneath when I was laying on it and reading a comic. When we were 16 and 15, it all ended because we started to ignore every unnatural occurrence. We had no nerve or power left to stand any more of this game. Fortunately, the spirits cooperated, and I haven't seen or felt any more paranormal activity since. This incident occurred about 13 years ago when I was 15 in a city near Perth, Western Australia. At the time, several strange things were happening, which I believed had to do with a seance my friend and I had played around with. Nothing much exciting happened during the seance, and to be honest, I thought my friend was pushing the glass and never thought much of it. Until I began waking up at 3:15 a.m. every morning with a genuine sensation of total terror. I would lie awake in my bed with the covers over my head as I had a strange sensation of being watched and was afraid of what was in my room with me. I would lie there until the sun came up. I was always terrified of looking in a certain direction, and upon inspection I found the glass which had been used in the seance. This took me by surprise as the glass had been disposed of, so I was certain that the glass was reason for my sleepless nights. I once again disposed of the glass. However, I kept experiencing the same feelings, and once again upon inspection came across the same glass that I had already thrown in the garbage twice. This time I was determined to get rid of it, so I took it outside and smashed it on the ground. I continued waking up at 3:15 to the minute every night without fail, and started seeing strange dark shadows. The shadows started as perfect black balls which would circle my room, then seemed to disappear through my window. I put this off to paranoia and lack of sleep and simply tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, still with my head under the covers. Other people started to notice the shadow too, at normal waking hours, saying that the end of the house where my room was seemed to be a bit creepy. Gradually, the shadows seemed to get bigger, but I continued to ignore them until one night. The family dog woke me, again at 3:15 a.m. He was sitting next to my bed and he was making a crying sound. I figured the dog needed to go out, so I got up and let him outside. As soon as I went back to bed, the dog was at my window, squeaking and carrying on. So I got back up and let him back inside. The dog followed me to my room and once again sat by my bed whimpering. I then took him back outside, and even though he sat at my window still crying, I made him stay out there for a bit because I didn't want him coming back in and waking me up. I eventually gave in and let the dog back inside. The bathroom light was on, letting light flood the hallway as I walked back to my room, where the dog started growling. I moved closer to the bathroom door so the dog could see it was me, as I was worried he was growling at my shadow. I called him up to me as he was still growling and said, "Hey, it's only Miri. Come here. What's the matter?" The dog walked slowly towards me, still growling, and sat next to my leg, growling at something behind me. In a flash, my thoughts raced to, "Oh my God, there is something in the house," and turned around and started running down the hallway. What I saw was something that never left my mind and something no one has ever believed when I have told them. I saw what I seemed like a huge bird. It had huge outstretched wings that would have touched the roof and almost the floor. Its body ended where the wings did, and neither seemed to touch the ground. As it followed me down the hallway, the wings stayed outstretched and it seemed to glide as it moved. I did notice a small head between the wings, but no features that I recall, and the head seemed hooded rather than round and connected to the body without a neck. The creature seemed more shadow-like than flesh, and as much I have tried to put it down to my own shadow, I'm certain that what I experienced and saw was real and could have been in no way my own shadow. I remember mostly the wings and the enormity of them. They towered over me and how it moved and followed after me until it slipped into another room. I'm not sure what happened to it after this, but my sister, who was older and didn't believe in anything paranormal, had some strange experiences involving a black shadow and some kind of sleep paralysis, where she was surrounded by a bunch of people laughing at her as the black shadow circled over top. Well, right now I'm 49 years old, but I was 12 years old when this happened. In 1978, my mother bought me a Ouija board thinking it was a game we could play together. So, one evening while my dad was at work, we got out the board, lit a candle, and put it in the middle of the table. We placed our fingers lightly on the planchette. Mom asked if there was anyone there that wanted to speak to us. I was giggling. She asked again. The planchette then moved to yes. I told my mom she was moving it, and she said she wasn't. Mom asked, "Who are you?" The planchette then went to each letter and spelled Jackson. We did not know anyone by the name of Jackson, first or last name. Mom then asked, "Are you a good spirit?" The planchette moved to yes, and then no. Mom asked, "How did you die?" The planchette did not move from the middle of the board. I was getting scared at that point, so Mom said, "Since you're not going to tell us, we're going to say goodbye now." The planchette slid to no. Mom said, "We have to go." The planchette then went to goodbye. We took our fingers off the planchette and it was sitting in the middle of the board. The planchette flew off the board and the round plastic piece where the middle pointer is was cracked. Mom put it back in the box and put it up in my closet. Where we lived, the floor was close to the ground, and my room was at the end of the house. And that night there was growling sounds coming up through the floor in the corner of my room. I went and got my mom. She came in, and it stopped. My mom smoked cigarettes, and that night her cigarettes smelled like sulfur. She said they tasted like sulfur too. My dad could not smell or taste it, but I could smell the sulfur strong. 3 nights later, the growling started up in the same corner of my room. I again went and got my mom. Dad was home and Mom told him to get the flashlight, go out and look. While the growling was happening, Dad came in and said that there was nothing under there. My mom proceeded to yell at it and tell it to stop. It got louder and sounded more like a guttural growl, like it was going to come through the floor after my mom. It finally stopped that night. The next morning, my mom felt sick. We took her temperature and it was 102. Dad took her to the hospital and they admitted her. She was diagnosed as having an infection clear through her whole body. She was in there for a week. The doctor told my dad that if he had waited one more day to bring her in, it could have killed her. The whole time she was in the hospital, my room and the whole house was quiet. Mom and I truly believe the spirit of Jackson died from having an infection in his blood and was never treated for it and died. That is my first and last experience with a Ouija board. My dad threw it away at the dump yard. I warn others now about the dangers of having and using a Ouija board. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.